Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the pilot episode of Cover Your Six. I'm your host, Ron Easton, formerly Specialist Fourth Class, Ron Easton, United States Army. Let me first off start by defining the term Cover Your Six. If you think about the clock, 12 o'clock being front, 6 o'clock being rear, in the military, we have a term, Cover Your Six. That means I've got your back. That means anything that I say to you, I'm going to make damn sure that it's the truth always. Because there's so many forms of misrepresentation out here these days that you don't know who to trust or who to believe in anymore. The reason why I'm starting this is because in 1969, I, like a lot of other people, stood up and raised my right hand, and I took the oath of expiration, for which there is no, or oath of, the oath of enlistment, I'm sorry, and there is no expiration date on the oath of enlistment. You raise your right hand and swear to defend this country against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And right now, the most domestic enemy that we have is the commander in chief. Like an infection, MAGA has worked its way into United States and our culture, and they are changing it 50 years back. And I just couldn't sit and watch that anymore. When I started thinking about this podcast, I was very adamant about how I wanted to start and who I wanted to start with. Later on, we're going to be bringing in Dr. Warren Harper Jr. This is a noted psychologist out of the state of Tennessee and a former Navy commander and a man that I respect deeply. We're going to break down what's going on in this country right now and ways that we can possibly remedy this. But it starts out with you being aware of what's going on. It starts out with you being able to stand up and speak out, because right now, United States National Guard are invading everywhere, and that's the thing that disturbs me the most, because the military at one point, or has always been up to this point, apolitical. So now you've got National Guard, you've got brothers against brothers. Think about another situation where that happened, called the Civil War. But I want you to think about another situation where the National Guard was called into a small town in Ohio, and these people are not trained for this type of stuff. And there were 4 dead killed at Kent State. So all of these things I want you to think about as you listen to what's going on in the White House. And it no longer is the Department of Defense, it is the Department of War. They didn't do that for just fun and giggles. They did that for a purpose, because you have a man sitting in the White House who took 5 deferments with bone spurs, who literally ran away from the Vietnam War. He wants to thump his chest at the expense of other soldiers. It is not their duty to patrol the streets of Chicago, of Los Angeles, or Baltimore, or any other city that he decides he wants to send them into. And if you notice, the Illinois National Guard is not taking part in this. So what do? They bring in the National Guard from Texas and red states. If you notice, the states where the crime is the highest, they don't send people there. So I want you to understand that I felt it, I felt compelled to do this. I didn't want to do this. I'm 75 years old, and I would love to just spend my life in anonymity, but I can't, because I am compelled as a United States soldier to stand up and speak out against what's going on in this country. You've noticed it. Look at how people are just, there's no love, there's no compassion, there's no even courtesy anymore. When you see a vice president who was informed that the murder of 11 Venezuelans was against the law, he said, I don't give a shit. Think about that for a second. These are supposedly our leaders. Think about that for a second. Dr. Warren Harper is, I can't, listen, I'll leave it to you to, or Dr. Harper to tell you about himself, because it's just that deep. So stick around. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, when I first thought about doing this podcast, I was adamant about a few things, and one of those things was my first guest. My first guest is Dr. Warren Harper Jr. out of the state of Tennessee, a man that was a Navy commander and that I respect highly. And you know how I've been about the current administration. We're going to talk about that and kind of break this down. Dr. Harper, how are you, sir?
Fine, Ron. It's good. It's good to be here on the air with you, and I hope the listening audience will enjoy our program.
I definitely hope so too. I wanted to, you know how I stand with the current administration and the things that I have seen. And you and I have spoken briefly, but I guess the thing that disturbs me the most is the willingness for American people to kind of go along with the craziness and the dissension and the madness that it's caused among American citizenry.
Well, I think the a big problem that I see as a psychologist is that we have not educated the public to understand what mental illness is. The example that we have of mental illness is someone who's walking around maybe nude, screaming to the sky, someone that has to be put into a straitjacket and what have you. They don't understand that having a personality disorder, or in this case, antisocial personality disorder, or in this case, a sociopath, or in this case, someone who's unhinged, they don't understand that that actually means that this person is mentally defective and cannot make rational decisions. So I think that's one thing that kind of slides by people. The other thing I think is that folks are just in denial. I mean, the same thing happened over in Nazi Germany when you had the Jews who were basically thinking that they were good Jews or the Germans weren't going to harm them in any way. And so they closed their eyes or fell asleep at the wheel and basically found themselves in gas chambers. So I think that we've got two problems. One, we have not educated the community about what mental illness looks like, because it does not have to be someone who was a raging lunatic. It can be someone who is so distraught or so ill advised in terms of their thinking, or someone that is so anxiety ridden, or someone who is so depressed, or someone who is just so angry and vicious and vile that person can become or is mentally ill as well. And once we get to understanding what that's all about, then I think the public will basically stop being so fearful about not approaching this in the way that we need to do to get this person out of the White House.
Can you describe some of the symptoms, but not only between being a sociopath, but being a narcissist?
Let me first point out something that was written by this particular Doctor Doge. Anyway, he basically was talking about the fact, and he basically made the diagnosis of sociopath. And so, the sociopath is someone who has a personality disorder. Now, we need to keep in mind, Ron, you know yourself by being in the military. When a person had a personality disorder, that's different from a neurosis, which is anxiety driven, or psychosis, which is a lack of contact with reality. If you have a personality disorder, it just means that you have a disordered sense of self and the world. You believe that the world is basically either out to get you or in some way has treated you unfairly. You choose not to go along with rules and regulations. And oftentimes these were the people that I took pride in putting out of the military because they were not going to be functional. But the symptoms of someone who is a sociopath, as diagnosed by Dr. Lance Dodes, is someone who is very egocentric, one who lacks empathy, one who is very manipulative, one who is very impulsive. They have disrespect for others. They show a sense of fearlessness. I mean, they can kind of walk into a room where they're hated, but they can still act as if everything is fine and people are still supposed to bow down to them. They're easily angered. They lack remorse. They have a pathological sense of lying all the time. They tend to be very callous as well. Now, Dr. Brandy Lee, who was a forensic psychiatrist, basically wrote this about Donald Trump. He said that he is a profoundly evil man exhibiting malignant narcissism. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's take a look at narcissism, because that's the other thing that tends to kind of get in the way of people understanding that this is a mental illness. The bottom line is that the narcissist doesn't have a conscience. There's no conscience whatsoever. There's no empathy for other people. There's no compassion. They basically believe that they were born to be praised, and they look for constant approval in everything that they do. They close their eyes to the reality of the real world around them, and they create their own world where they are the center of attention, and everyone admires them and needs their guidance and protection. Now the problem is that Trump has basically projected his insane world into this world. So therefore, many people are walking around now, not quite understanding that he is not only very troubled and very unhinged, but also how dangerous he is. And since the word is narcissism, people think, well, that's just a person that just thinks too much of themselves. No, a narcissist has no real concern about who he or she harms and the amount of pain that they inflict. They also have this sense that the world is pretty much out to get them, and that anyone that speaks against them becomes their enemy. And so that's why we see Trump going after any and everyone that speaks out against him, or anyone that has had any involvement in trying to hold him responsible for his behavior in court. So those are the two diagnoses that oftentimes come up when we're talking about Donald Trump. And keep in mind, a person like myself, I can't make those diagnoses as a clinical psychologist. And the reason is that there's what they call the Goldwater rule. And that means that unless I see him and interview him and do some psychological testing and things like that, unless I interview him, I cannot make an assessment, nor can I basically release the information to the public. But there are psychiatrists that do that. They're called forensic psychiatrists. And Dr. Bandy Lee is a world-renowned forensic psychiatrist that spent all of her professional years working with criminals. So therefore, when it comes to a criminal, it makes no sense to interview them because they're automatically going to be pathological liars as well. So the forensic psychiatrist looks at all the information that surrounds the person, the kind of criminal activity they've been involved in, the people that they associate with, the types of other criminal behavior they may have been engaged in, who they've harmed and how they've harmed them, and things like that. And that psychiatrist can make a clinical diagnosis, and therefore we come up with her saying that he is a malignant narcissist. Now, there's also one other person that feels the same way. His name is George Conway. Now, you may know him.
I do.
Yeah, his wife was a presidential advisor. That's right. That's right. And he basically said that he didn't know what was going on with Trump, and he couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. That the man was so unhinged. He said he finally came across an article where the term narcissism was used, and that he did a considerable amount of research, and now he is a big proponent of trying to uncover and lay out for the people how dangerous this particular person is, because he has no regrets about saying that he is a malignant narcissist, a sociopath, and a pathological liar. So we have a big problem on our hands.
We have a huge problem. As I aged, I hoped that I would be able to live my life in some degree of anonymity. But here I am at 75 years old doing things that I did when I was young, as far as protesting. My grandmother was a huge member of the NAACP, so I had people like Ralph Abernathy and Benjamin Hill coming through my living room. And I guess one of the things that disturbs me the most are his supporters, people who are willing to just go along with this, because it's easier to be led than to think for yourself. And when you are filled a bill of goods, but then you find yourself on the precipice of being dumped like everybody else, would you kind of address that a little bit?
There's this psychological phenomenon called identification with the aggressor. Anytime you are terrified or afraid of someone, you can either continue to run away from that person and stay wrapped up in fear, or you can identify with them and basically start believing in what they're saying, become one of their cult members. Okay. I think that many of these people have identified with the aggressor, but he's also perceived by them as the winning team. The winning team. So you have another group of people who are basically in with him for the money or notoriety. And as you pointed out, eventually they're going to get dumped and made a fool out of. But still, for whatever reasons, they find themselves drawn to him, as people who are in cults are drawn to other kind of religious leaders or people who are who are very devious and very much of a con man or woman.
Coming out of the South, born in Memphis, 1949, and
Mm-hmm.
having to live through that period of told where to go to school, where to eat, where to pray, where to walk, where to live. And I started seeing those signs again. And I guess as far as talking about my people, our people, skin folk,
Uh-huh.
their willingness to accept this madness is what has
Uh,
befuddled me the most.
that also troubles me the most as well, because as you know from listening to me on radio in Memphis on WDIA, we do have people that are calling up there constantly, basically trying their best to point out all the wonderful things that Trump is doing, and always bringing up things that they say Biden didn't do, et cetera, et cetera. So that does bother me, but it also makes me think in terms of a psychologist about the amount of self-hate that they had prior even to Trump being on the scene.
Hmm.
If you hate yourself, then obviously you're going to hate your own kind. And for whatever reason, if you hate yourself and hate your own kind, you're going to be more than willing, as Candace Owens has been to jump on that train because you want to see the destruction of your own people.
Yeah.
And the ones that do call WDIA, are usually the ones that have nothing good whatsoever to say about African American people, and they kind of long for this vision of them being accepted into the white clan, because it's not a
Yes.
race, the
Yes.
white clan, and which is totally delusional. And as I point out so often, the delusion is a fixed false belief. So you and I both know that if you're dealing with someone who's been labeled a narcissist and a sociopath, that you cannot trust your back being turned to them, or you cannot trust them, period. And the fact that they have so much denial, but also the fact that they really don't want to see the truth at this particular point says that they are very, very dangerous. One of the last times I was on the radio, one of these people who love to just kiss Trump's rear end
Hmm.
basically said that he'd be more than glad to turn me in. So that upset the listening audience. But then I was asked, did it upset me? And I said, no,
No.
I expect him to do that. And see, we have to understand that these people who are that pathological and that damaged are the ones who hate ourselves, the black ones at least. They have no sense of any kind of of desire to help out any black people, black persons whatsoever, and they're about the business of doing everything that they can be seen as being on the other side.
Yeah.
And so the sad reality is, as I mentioned, so did you. They're going to get crushed first, because if you think about it, you know, the one thing that any kind of dictator, which is what Trump is, anytime a dictator and a fascist sees you turning coats on your own people, he knows he can't trust you from Jump Street.
Absolutely.
So, so
And
your throat's going to get cut quick.
and will use you till the nth
Yes,
degree.
that's exactly right.
Oh Lord. Can we first let me say this. Folks, I didn't talk about Dr. Harper's bio because it is extensive. And as I said, he was a former commander in the Navy. If you want to know about Dr. Harper's background, go to my web page. It's www.coveryoursixpodcast.com, and his bio will be on there, and his lovely little picture will be on there as well. So you'll get to see who you're talking to. Doc, can we talk about some of the cuts to the social programs in the VA, especially the VA?
No, anytime you have someone who makes cuts, that person in and of itself is telling you that they have no concern about people. No concern about people, no concern about those of us who like you and I are both 75 years old. And he's playing into what I've referred to before as necropolitics. Necropolitics is all about doing the best that you can do to determine who should survive in a society and who should die.
Yeah.
Necropolitics is what Trump is all about at this particular point. As far as they're concerned, him and his rest of his cronies, those people who are ill qualified to do anything, they would love to see that VA hospital closed for anyone over 50.
Oh
Okay,
man.
they would love for all of us to basically just go somewhere and die. They would love for all of us to stop collecting any kind of EA benefits whatsoever, and they're going to do their best to see how they can do that. I mean, I can see in the near future that a person like Trump and his other Nazi
Excess.
sympathizers, yeah, I can see it exactly. I can see them thinking that, well, maybe we can cut back on some of the veterans' benefits, the ones who retire, because they're already receiving Social Security. So let's just cut back, and we'll tell the people that we're doing it so that we can make sure that the system stays solvent, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have to find a way of quieting us and our voices, because we've been around long enough to have tasted and felt a little bit of that 1950s and 60s Jim Crow coming back, and the fact that we broke out of it with so much vigor at some point and started to love ourselves and see ourselves as being black and beautiful. They're afraid of you and me, so they
Very
have to
much
find a
so.
way. They have to find a way of quieting us, and it's risky for us doing what we're doing now. But I'm like you. I can't sit back and wait for someone to knock down my door and I'm disappeared somewhere.
No,
I'm going to leave a
it's
legacy.
you. You know, I have had people ask me why I do this and why I speak out. And I think about the fact that growing up in Memphis, I was born into a state where, with a skin color, that they didn't give a damn about me. And as even once I went into the military, I came back. You came back as baby killers and all of this. Well, I came back
That's right.
as just another nigger, to be real honest with you.
That's right. That's
So,
right.
so I have been a warrior all of my life.
Proud of
And
you.
when I think about the fact, here's the thing that I guess I have been to the wall 8 times. There's 58,243 names on that wall. I wear this hat every day for one of those names on that wall. That
Bless you.
wall represents people who made the ultimate sacrifice to die for something.
Yes.
And the fact
Yes.
that people are so willing to give up rights that people have shed blood for breaks my heart.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And it never ceases to amaze me how quickly they do that. It's almost as if they start off with the presumption that this is whatever he's doing is not going to be that painful. Don't worry about it. And if they take a few statues down, or if they rename some bases after the Confederates, it's no big thing. Why get so upset? But every time you make a concession or forced to make a concession, they're going to take not only that, but everything else they can also take as well before they decide that they've taken enough, and by that time
Yeah.
there won't be no more you and I around.
Yeah. I have, when I think about the fact that there are 22 veterans a day that commit suicide, these
That's
are the
right.
people that don't get the recognition. On the wall, you've got people who were killed in combat. But then you think about the fact that Trump's administration is cutting research for cancer, and most of the
Yes,
guys who have been exposed to Agent Orange come
that's
down
right.
with some form of cancer in one way, shape, or form. And then the suicide hotline, to have a recording and a soldier to call that at the wrong time is
Mhm.
destructive. It's just destructive.
Necropolitics.
It is.
Necropolitics at its very core. Say that you're going to be there and then abandon it.
Yeah.
And then if you abandon me in my last moments of thinking about life and have a little bit of hope, and if that phone is not picked up, I'll blow my brains out. And
Mhm.
see, again, if the VA had been prepared, but they should have been prepared. They should have been prepared, and they should have recognized the fact that everybody is not going to come in there to get long-term psychotherapy to overcome their PTSD, particularly when many people are many, many miles away from VA hospitals. And, sometimes it's just so difficult for some people to even begin with. But overcoming that stigma of something is wrong with me at the core because I witnessed or did things that were warlike. I can't forgive myself now.
Yeah.
And most men and even women who find themselves in traumatic situations can't seem to see themselves as being mentally ill. And the ones who start feeling like they are mentally ill are terrified of going to receive the help because they don't always trust the people that are providing the help to begin with.
Amen.
We got a bad problem.
I got one
Bad
other
problem.
topic here. I want to, and if anybody can, hash this out, you be the man, Doc. It is perceived that the Democrats, who supposedly the stopgap to stop all of this madness, are doing nothing.
Nothing.
And
Well,
I don't want to be critical, but that's the
mhm.
same perception that I have.
Well, I don't mind being critical because I think as I've been trying to get out to the people that listen to me, Trump is doing some things that average Americans want to have happen. Now, he's not doing it in the way that he's not doing it in the right way. But the whole idea of getting rid of some immigrants, I mean, I don't go along with that. But many people think, yeah, because they've been made to they've been cast as the enemy of the people and rapists and murderers and what have you. Let's get rid of some of those. Let's see. Plus, let's go into some of these cities where you've got all this killing, like Chicago, and let's send them in the military, National Guard, and what have you. Yeah, I think that might be helpful. It's just not. Uh, I'm thinking that more and more people have bought into a part of what he's saying and what he's doing. And I think the Democrats, since they're cowards to begin with, and they never want to get a backbone and stand up and fight these people, these psychopaths. See, I think many of them are holding back from doing anything, hoping that the courts, which are not necessarily, which are starting to do something, hoping that the courts or the people will basically force them
Yes.
to have to get off their ass and actually take some action against this very unhinged person.
Yeah. Dr. Warren Harper, I've said this to you before, and I'll say it to you again. You are one of the men that I respect the most in this world, and I can't thank you enough to do this on my first podcast. Is there a statement or something you'd like to leave everybody with?
Well, first, let me say this, and I respect you to the highest degree for your service as well as for the service that you're doing right now. I have no problems with with going to a different location, like my son's house, or even back to my job, and we testing this system out again to see whether or not we can get a face to face done at some point in the near future.
Sir. Yes,
we
sir.
can do more of this.
Yes, sir.
I'm more than willing to do that. So, let if you can have the brother there that's handling your IT, he and I could talk at some point, and I will move around and find the best place for us to be, so that we can do this man to man.
I promise you, and Philip and I both will make that happen. And again, thank you for your service. And like I said, if you folks want to know more about Dr. Harper, go to my page, www.coveryour6podcast.com. His bio will be on there, and there will be a list of upcoming guests. And we're going to talk about all kinds of things, sexual trauma in the military. There are things, and I will love to have Dr. Harper back at that time to tell you the inner workings of what's. Just for example, in 2023, there were 29,000 cases of military sexual trauma, and only 500 or 5,536 of those were prosecuted.
And that's
you got that right, Doc. So, Dr. Harper, I promise you, I will be in touch with you again, and we will do this again.
That sounds great. God bless you.
Roger that. You as well, Doc. Ladies and gentlemen, it don't get no better than that. Dr. Harper is one of those people that when my mind is shot, and I will tell you right now, I am a 100% disabled veteran through the Vietnam War. And you look at me and, well, no, you didn't lose an arm, you didn't lose a leg. No, I lost my mind. And growing through the years, I've tried to get it back. And this is one of the ways that I'm going to get it back, because I am going to stand up and fight. And there's nothing that anybody can do or say to stop me. So if you want to contact me, the email is, and I got to get this right, it's the number 6 podcast@gmail.com, or you can go to the website coveryour6podcast.com and contact me there. As things progress, Philip and I will be working on a way for people to call into the show and come through the board, and this show is just going to get better and better and better. That I promise you. So, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for joining me on this episode of Cover Your Six. And the next one will be on the 21st. And I'm working on people coming in, but I think I got my buddy Jelly Bean Johnson, who is like Twin City royalty, to join me. So I say I'm going to leave you with this, a saying that I find I just can't get out of my mind. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Dr. Martin Luther King. Peace.